Hey y'all, it's time for a special edition of Rolling Dice and Taking Names. As part of the Tabletop Showcase, the guys interview the designers of Catan and Catan Starfarers, Klaus, Teuber, and his son Benny.
Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Rolling Dice and Taking Names. This is episode 185. Nothing is going to stop us now. My name is Marty.
And I'm Tony.
And Tony, over the past almost 7 years, we have had some amazing designers on our show. We've had people like Rob Davio, Eric Lang, Martin Wallace, this past year, Stefan Feld, Ignacy Chevicek, and probably more that I'm just totally forgetting. But we're excited today to have on this episode, Tony, what I consider is probably one of the godfathers of board game designers, Klaus Teuber, who's the designer of Settlers of Catan, or just now, Catan.
Yep, the plane is fueled up. It's ready to go. We got to get on board so we can get over to Essen to interview him.
Is that what we're going with? We're going to act like we're at Essen?
We're going to act like it. We're going to pretend that we're there, that we're interviewing them, that their crowd noise is in. Life is good because they took time out of their busy schedule at Essen to talk to us. They probably were like, really? We're giving up valuable signing time to go meet our fans, to go talk to these guys who we have no clue who they are.
Yes, this episode was recorded in a very short window that they had available at Essen. They were in a very busy, loud room, and we were able to get a decent connection in. The wireless connection was kind of spotty, but we were able to sit down with them and discuss about Starfarers, which is part of Tabletop Showcase, which is premiering this week with a lot of other fantastic content creators. And in this, we're going to be talking to Klaus and his son, Benny, about the history of Catan and Starfarers itself. So bear with us as we had this interview, and there may have been some, I don't know, Tony, maybe some language barriers between Klaus and ourselves, who speaks very good English, but sometimes, Tony, when coming from us and we're using Southern accents with quirky terms, he may not exactly follow what we were saying.
It was challenging to say the least, but we thank them for taking the time. We feel like we got a lot of good information. We wish we could have had them on longer because there were a ton of questions I wanted to ask. We all know that it's the modern gaming launching point for people. You know, there's all these Catan tournaments. We have our qualifiers here in the Charlotte area. There is a ton of following behind this game. My wife still loves to play it today.
Yeah, Tony, here's the thing. Starfarers is nothing like the other Catans. I mean, sure, it has a little bit of similarities and stuff, but it's a totally different style of game, has a different feel, and we'll share more of our thoughts after the interview. And with that, I'm sure you're all tired of hearing us. Let's go talk to Klaus Teuber and his son, Benny. We are so excited to have on this little podcast one of the biggest designers in hobby board game history, the designer of Catan, Klaus Teuber, and his son, Benny. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having us.
Hello, here's Klaus.
Tony, I'm fanboying over here. Fanboying because Settlers of Catan was basically the game that got me into hobby board gaming. Gentlemen, I went out to the internet years ago. All right, so what's all these games people are talking about? Which one should I buy? And every time I did a web search, Catan was the game that came to the top of the list. So I said, well, that's the one I got to get. And then, over 10 years later and 7 years of podcasting, I'm here because of y'all. So thank you.
We're very flattered that you have us, guys. And it's a pleasure that this was 10 years of history and you have us.
It's a pleasure for me to meet you.
So we'll jump right into this because we know you guys are at Essen right now. And are you having a good show?
We had a fantastic show so far. We had a lot of good presentations. We're having Starfarers, the relaunch, which we did 20 years ago, and now in the new version. And it's a good show. Always crowded, but always very lively and a great experience.
Tony, before we get started, I've been wondering this. It's asked constantly. what is the official way to say Catan?
Catan is the official way to speak it out.
Catan. Okay. All right. So there's my first official question. Tony, go ahead.
So my next official question is, how has the board gaming community changed since you started going to Essen?
Also much bigger. When I see the 70s and look back to the 70s, we had here in Germany perhaps 100 new games a year. And now about 1,500. So there was a very, very big development. And we had a lot of small companies. We had a lot of different games. I think there was a big changement.
So you started going in the 70s. Now, I did a little bit of research here. I actually did some homework. You studied and worked as a dental technician in your dad's lab, I believe. So as you were getting your degree in chemistry and going into that profession, you were a gamer. What inspired you as a gamer to try to get into designing a game and coming up with this particular game?
At the first time in the 70s, I played a lot of games with my family, with friends. It was never my wish to develop a game, but once a day I read a book. It is the Riddle Master Trilogy from Patricia McKillip, and I loved this book. I loved the story, and when I finished the book, I was a little bit sad to leave this wonderful story, this wonderful land had. I tried to stay longer in this world of this book, and so I had an imagination what would be great to have a game and to experience this story in a game. Not the whole story, but a part of the story. And this was the first idea I had for a game. And I worked on this game for 5 years and never thought about giving it to a company. It was only my hobby. And then later I recognized, okay, I could send it to a company, and I did. And this was Barbarossa and the Riddle Masters, published in Germany, 88. So it starts. I found it wonderful to create little words of gaming, words, not words, worlds of games. And in each start of a game development, I had a story in my mind, and I tried to experience the story.
So with Barbarossa, it was your first game that was published. Does it still hold a special place in your heart?
Yeah, it has, and I am very glad that this game was republished 4 years ago as Knetzel in Germany.
Dodels in the USA.
In Germany Knetzel, and in the US is Dodels.
After that, and you started working on Catan, what was the goal? Was the goal just to, hey, I want to create a game, or did you want to create a game with a particular experience or certain ideas in mind that you wanted to make sure that you had, so that when people played, they were socializing or cooperating or working with each other? I mean, what was the ultimate goal of Catan?
It was also a story behind Catan. I love to read about history, and I read a book about the Vikings, their explorings, and the big discoverings of Iceland and America and so on. And in my imagination, I thought, would wonderful to be a settler like the Vikings and to find a new land. And what to do on this land? We need trees for houses. We need wheat to over life, and all these things. And so I start to develop a game of discovery and settlement. It was a very, very huge game, big, too big. And in the second conception, I reduced it to settling, and later I made another game with the theme of discovering. And the third conception after that then further development was then Settlers of Catan.
So from Catan to Starfarers, how did you make that transition?
Starfarers was the same idea, at least, but it was not Iceland or America to discover. It were planets and the big and large space. That's also a story which fascinates me, and also to meet people, aliens, and to show that aliens must not be evil. If they overview survive their own culture, they could be only friendly. And so this was a little bit also a message of the game.
When we first played Starfarers a couple weeks ago, I was just expecting Catan in space, but it was nothing like that, because you introduced these things called event cards, that every once in a while these events would occur where you read a card to the person who's going to be affected by it and they have to make a decision. Where did you come up with the idea for that? Because that is what made the game so unique for me and made our entire game group love it so much.
Yeah, it's a part of Starfarers that you discover planets, but also it's a part that you meet alien people, and you have several decisions. You should have several decisions. This was my idea, and so I created these cards that you get one task, and then you have to try to find the best way how to answer questions of these cards. It was a story element, and the first idea for that, I don't know when I get this, but it was had its roots in the story.
Well, it's brilliant. Plain and simple, brilliant. We loved it. And we love some of the interactions that it caused in our game. Benny, how much play testing did you get to do growing up?
A lot, frankly, but it never felt as playtesting, because Klaus made it very clever. He only asked me to play something when he saw that I was in the mood for it. So he'd never say, like, sit down and play and have fun. That wouldn't work for a game. So I think I did a lot without knowing.
Benny, I heard in an interview with Klaus that you and he are very competitive when it comes to Catan. And there's a disagreement on who's ever the better player. Do y'all still play the game today a lot, and is it still very competitive?
We are, in a very friendly way, of course. There's a lot of noting who is leading currently to the other players, but that's in a friendly way. There is one thing that Klaus always said. It's when you develop a game, you actually don't win so much because you're thinking about how to improve the game. And I always thought, I don't think so. I'm just pretty good. And now that we co-develop games together, I do realize that while test playing, you think about how to improve the game all the time. And then you actually do not play so well anymore. So we're pretty head-to-head now.
From the 1999 release of Starfarers to the 2019 release, how much has changed in the two versions?
We speed up the game. We had some changes. We made it variable. That means that you do not know which planets are on special places. You have to discover them. And we didn't change the whole game, but we made little changes to make it much more interesting and to speed it up. And also we had much better material. Now we have rockets where some pieces will not break. We have very fine material, and also Franz Vogwinkel, the illustrator. 20 years ago he illustrated the first Starfarers and now the second version, and you see he made a great development in his art. I like the aliens and the different characters he illustrated. He did a wonderful work.
I know that Starfarers, the original, is one of the most sought after games because it was so hard to find, and people are super excited to get it back on the table. And I got to say, with the refinements that you've made, this game does not feel 20 years old. And that's what's just so amazing about it. It has really stood the test of time to still have that, a current board game feel, even though it was done 20 years ago. Did you find that this was one of your most requested re-releases of Catan over the years, and that's why you decided to, let's go back to this game and bring it out again?
Yes, it was definitely, and this was the reason that it was republished now, because a lot of people wishes it back, and to have first good material now, and that's Benny, no? That was the reason.
Absolutely, we got a lot of tickets in our ticket systems, and almost sounded always like, please bring it back and make the motherships not break anymore.
Yeah, and so we've had a chance to play with those ships. Those ships are great. They're a great piece to add to a game. You sit there and play with them, and you add bits and pieces to them. Y'all did a really good job re-engineering those ships. They're amazing.
Thank you very much. It's the thanks is due to our great editorial team, frankly, of Catan Studio and Cosmos, our partners. They did an amazing job in creating these motherships.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I want to say also, Benny and I develop all the games since 5 years together. He had also a part in Starfarers, but it was a game which had existed. So there's only my name on the title, above the title, but he also had a big part in make it better.
So you mentioned Catan Studios. How big is Catan Studios? How many people work there?
Seven people right now.
Just 7 produce all those expansions to Catan? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Benny, does your brother still work at Catan Studios?
No, that's actually Catan GmbH. So we have, it's Catan GmbH, that's Klaus and Guido and I, and our head of digital, Arndt. And then there is Catan Studios, and that's our American partner.
Okay. I was trying to figure out if there were the 2 separate ones. Very good.
It's quite a complicated company structure for us.
And Marty, I learned something. I thought the studio in Germany was GmbH, but it's not. That's the same as an LLC. I was like, oh, okay. See, so I've learned something from this beyond just how Catan came to be.
Well, I'm glad you sat in on the interview today then, Tony.
I know.
So just out of curiosity, so obviously, Klaus, you're known for Catan. Do you ever get to the point it's like, yes, I've done Catan, but I've done other things. Do you ever just want to say, okay, I'm ready to do some other style of games and do something different from Catan? Do you ever get tired of working on Catan and want to do something else?
No, I'm not tired. Last year, together with Benny, we made The Rise of the Inca. It was a wonderful experience to make this game. It's a kind of game, a Catan game with new mechanics. And we made the legends of the sea robbers, we made the legends of the conquerors, and each of these games we developed were fun, and we hope we have also future ideas for other kind of challenges in the world of Catan.
So you mentioned you're constantly working on expansions and different versions of the game, and there's been different flavors of the game that came out. For example, Fantasy Flight Games came out, with the Game of Thrones version of it. Do you have your hand in every version of Catan that comes out, or do people just approach you for the license and then they'll take and make their own version of it?
Oh no, absolutely us. So it's always Klaus and I who start with the development of the game, and we would never give that away. So the core creation is always with us, and then when it's more matured and ripe to be tested, we go to extended groups to play tests, but the start is always with us.
Here's the thing, though. I guess y'all know this, too, because you probably make sure you keep your fingers on the pulse of all things Catan. For years ago, it was released on the Xbox video game console, which I used to play. It's coming out on the Switch, which was just announced in the Nintendo Switch. How does it feel now, this game that you made decades ago, now coming out on all these video game devices where now you can play like online with friends and everything?
Yeah, the first version, the digital version, was published in 1999 by Ravensburger Interactive in Germany. And in the first years of 2000 years, we made the Catan Online world. Also, there you could play digital versions of Catan. Now, today it's Catan Universe. So we had from the end of the 90s development of digital games.
But I think it never replaces the board game, right? Like it's always an addition to it, like an alternative. Maybe the next best one, if you don't have your friends and family to play the analog board game, then you'll sit down and would play in.
What Benny said, if you have no opportunity, no friends, no time, and the right time, and then you can play it digital. And another big help for board games is to learn it by apps, by learning by doing, which we had in our Catan app.
And there are many people who may not play board games who find this on the Xbox, the PC, the Switch, etc., who will play it and like it so much, and then go buy the actual board game, the physical version, to play with their friends and family. So it could bring them into the hobby because it does exist as a video game.
I'm personally not so aware of numbers of how often that's the case, but I could imagine so. Yeah, I think the tutorials are well done, and maybe some people find their way to the analog board game through the digital one. Absolutely.
Now, one thing that's very important to our fans here at Rolling Dice and Taking Names, and we ask this of all developers, designers, publishers, what type of lawnmower do you have?
I had an electrical one.
Do you still mow your own lawn?
Yes.
Most people don't. Yeah, I heard a yes.
He does. I see it each Sunday. Well, I live in Frankfurt and I have a very small garden. It's just 5 square meters, and I have a hand one, a mechanic one.
That was the burning question that our entire audience was wondering. Yeah, but if they mow the yard, what do they mow it with? And we have some other burning questions, gentlemen. As always, with anybody that ever comes on the show as a first-time guest, we have a game that we like to play with them called Rank 'em. Now, in Rank 'em, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you a list of 3 items, and we would like you to rank those in any order that you want, then explain why you ranked them that way. For example, we might say vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate, and you can rank those however you want, best flavors of candy or ice cream, etc. So, do you all understand the rules of this very simple game?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, here we go. First one, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi. Rank those however you want.
Sorry. Okay, then Mercedes, because my grandfather was a car trader, or like traders with cars, and when I was young, I drive with him in his old-timer Mercedes, and I love these tours.
All right, Benny?
My dream car has always been an Audi Cabriolet. Therefore, that's clear number 1 for me. Then my parents drive a BMW, and I drive it sometimes, so I guess that's number 2. And then Mercedes is, in Germany at least, for the older folks, so it's number 3.
There you go. All right, Tony?
I'm right there with Benny. It's going to go Audi. Love the designs and lines of the Audi. Then followed up with a good old BMW, then Mercedes.
I'm going to have to go also Audi first. I'm going to go Mercedes-Benz second, because there was this thing back in college. We had a rival university, and it seems like all the people out over there, all they did was just drive BMWs, and they were real snooty. So I've always looked down on BMW owners. So no offense to anybody. It was just an old college thing. All right, so thanks. Tony, you're up.
All right, gentlemen. Transitioning to a different topic. Spider-Man, Iron Man, the Hulk.
I like Iron Man most, I have to say. It's maybe due to the last movies and the great actor. The options of him are what he can do is just it's the best movies. And then very close second is Spider-Man, because that's like more of what it's about, like how he got to power, like his powers and how he uses them, like in a very fair and moral way. That's really intriguing. And then the Hulk never really caught me, to be honest. So that's my number 3.
I don't met all these guys so much.
I think you haven't watched all the movies. Yeah.
Thanks for throwing in a pop culture question, Tony, that somebody may not be really into, and just throw them off, okay? So for me, I'm going to have to go, let's go by cartoons. I like Spider-Man cartoon the best, and then there was the really bad versions of like Iron Man and Hulk in the 70s, but I liked Iron Man more than Hulk. So Spider-Man, Iron Man, Hulk.
Okay, and maybe Klaus may not know the pop culture, but Benny obviously does. And maybe I'm trying to get him to think about a Catan Marvel Universe crossover.
Oh, there you go. That's a good idea, especially since you're working with Asmodee, who has the license to Marvel. Tony, could we be onto something here?
I'm thinking I am. I could see the Starfarers. I could see the Avengers universe. I'm seeing a whole line here.
Well, thank you for the inspiration.
There you go.
Keep it in mind.
So, and Marty obviously knows mine because we talk about it often in Spider-Man, and then I go with the Hulk, and then Iron Man are my 3. And, well, as Benny said, Spider-Man just from the backstory.
All right, here it is. Last one for me. It's going to be 3 countries. Rank them however you want, and I'll tell you why I listed them. First, New Zealand, Australia, Finland. And the reason why, New Zealand is known for lots of sheep, Australia is known for lots of iron, and Finland is known for using lots of wood in their power generation. Benny, you want to rank those first?
I was lucky enough to travel Australia and New Zealand, and the New Zealanders are just one of the nicest people I've met in my life so far. So this has been one of my favorite places in the world. Closely followed by Australia, but it would be unfair to the Finnish right now because I've never been there. So frankly, I can't give you a real ranking there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my favorite is New Zealand because I saw a lot of wonderful films were made in New Zealand. Then Australia, and at the end, Finland. But it's also a wonderful land too.
I'm going to rank them on what could kill you there, and Australia has the most deadly things. So Australia goes first, then New Zealand. Those hobbits will put a whoop on you like nobody else. And then I'm not sure if Finland's a threat, but they could be. I don't know.
And then for me, it's going to be, let's see, well, New Zealand, because that's where Lord of the Rings was shot. I think you made reference to the movies. And then Australia, just because of all the cool, deadly animals, which is why I don't know that I want to ever really visit there. And then coming in third is Finland for no reason other than it was just behind the other 2.
I can relate to that.
And gentlemen, before we let you get back, we got one more for you from me because we want you to go have fun at Essen. But my last one is the obvious: sheep, wheat, wood.
Wheat, because it's for me the most important resource in Catan. You need it for development cards, you need it for settlement and for cities. And without wheat, it's very hard to win the game.
I'd say no wheat means defeat. That's a classic, so it should be number 1. And then wood for sheep. It's so intertwined that it's 2 and 3 the same place.
Marty?
I'm going to go with the experts here and do exactly what they said. So wheat, wood, sheep.
And for me, I'm basing it on how easy it is to get warm from these things. So you can burn wood. Wheat can keep you warm if you thatch a house with it, but you have to shear a sheep to get its wool. So for me, it's wood, wheat, sheep.
Wow, Tony, we actually played Rankum with the designers of Catan. Can you believe it, man?
I can't believe they stayed on long enough to do it.
They're like, okay, they're like looking at their watch now, says, okay, we really got to go. And actually, we do need to wrap this up. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. I'm fanboying a little bit, like I said, Catan. I asked the question at the very beginning, and I still said it wrong. Catan's one of the games that got me into this hobby, so thank you so much. If it wasn't for you and your family, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about this game today. I wouldn't be playing games with my family and friends. I probably wouldn't have a podcast. So thank you so much. Tony, final fanboy words over there?
I'm turning the lights off on rolling dice and taking names. We've done it all.
That's it. We've reached the pinnacle, right?
We have peaked. Gentlemen, enjoy Essen. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us, guys. It was a pleasure.
Okay, Marty. So I could have probably kept going for another few hours. I wish we had the time, like I said, but we got to play Starfarers, and I did have an epic fail when I named this. For those who don't know, I always name the episodes after rock songs, classic songs, whatever I can come up with that fits what I think this episode is about. And I should have called this Benny and the Jets, but instead...
Oh, missed opportunity. Oh my gosh. I mean, I got it. Nothing's going to stop us now by the group Starship.
Yeah, and nothing's going to stop rolling dice and taking names. We've hit the big boys. We got to get Alan Moon, and I'm telling you, man, we can turn the lights off on this show. So nothing's going to stop us now.
Oh my gosh, that would have been perfect. Oh well.
Starfarers. When this comes out, this will be on. I'm going to cut to it. Will be on my shelf.
Oh, it's already out, Tony. As the release of this episode, it is now in retail and available for purchase. Tony, I was totally surprised by this game. I mean, I enjoy Catan. As I said, Catan was I've said Catan twice differently right there. Catan was my gateway game. And seriously, I did Google searches. It's like this kept popping up to the top. Let's check it out. It got me into hobby board gaming. And there's some expansions I really like. Cities Nights, I just love that expansion. So when I thought Starfarers, okay, it's just the same game and in space. Tony, like you said, it has a totally different feel.
I like how you have to launch out of the planet from your spaceship to go explore. Then if you are able to establish another port, then you can go from there and launch your ships and continue. I love the fact that the board is no longer that hexagon, that you are actually get the feeling of traveling through space. And
they're still made of hexes.
They are. That's okay. Yeah, that's fair. But the board itself is not.
Yes, that's right. It's made up of hex spaces with modular planets and tiles, so the board's different every game.
Right. And then some planets are unexplored, or you don't know what's there, what numbers are there. That right there, when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's it. This is the game for me.
And the fact that you upgrade your ship, so that big ship that you have, you put upgrade components on it that makes it easier for you to go further out into space. It makes easier to you go colonize planets. It makes easier for you to set up trade routes and everything with the foreign aliens. Okay, that was weird. With the aliens that are out in space on the further end of the board. So you're constantly trying to upgrade your ship to be able to do more things with it. But Tony, the thing that just took it over top for me, and I think for all of us that played, are those event.
Here it is.
The event cards, right?
Event cards. Oh, those were so much fun. I was kind of hesitant with them, but you've been approached by pirates. You have a choice, A or B. What do? Oh, you chose B. Well, let's talk about what's going to happen now. And here's what happens. Any game that creates an epic moment, it will live for you forever. And that's what Starfarers did for us when we played it with Nate and Mark from the Scurry Report. And Mark was on the verge of winning. And he had an event card come up. And that card took away his victory. It upset Mark, but it made the other three of us really happy. Because it was funny.
Because we saw it coming. All of us are going, Mark is going to win. And there was like no way that we can stop it. And so he had to shake up his spaceship and the balls fall out the bottom. If a black ball shows up, we're drawing an event card and he draws it. And what's I love about these event cards, Tony, like you said, it's like you approach pirates. You have choice A or B. Sometimes the A is good. Sometimes the B is good. There's really you can't deduce which one's going to be better, right? Mm-hmm. It's just kind of luck of the draw. He went with the one that he thought would be the safest choice. and it ended up costing him the victory, and the whole table just died laughing, except for Mark. It was just an experience I'll never forget.
Yeah. I mean, and once again, nothing's going to stop us now. Nothing's going to stop me from this win. Oh, yeah, it will. There it comes. Here's the event card. Bam. It's gimmicky with a spaceship with the little balls in it to shake them up to see what's going to happen. But you know what? It was fun. And that's what a game should be.
And to me, it reminded me, as we were playing, it reminded me of the Crossroads cards in Dead of Winter from Plaid Hat Games, where every turn you draw a Crossroad card, and if it triggers, then you resolve that card. I actually like this better because when an event card is drawn, you will read it. Lots of times in with the Crossroads cards in Dead of Winter, if the event didn't trigger, you just put it back down on the deck. And lots of times you never even read the Crossroad cards. Here, event cards were constantly coming up, and it constantly changed the flow of the game. And people may think, well, that just adds an element of luck to my Euro. It does. I agree. But you know what? Thematically, it's just fun. It just created a fun environment. The board is big and gorgeous. You got these nice chunky bits that you're moving around and playing with. The ships and the spaceports are all nice. It looks great on the table. It's just a fun experience. And if somebody says, I want to play Catan, I will definitely say, can it be Starfarers?
Oh, yes. And and Marty, refresh my memory because it's been a few moons since we've played. As you progress up the victory point track, what was it that you were limited to?
You don't get to draw as many resource cards at the beginning of your turn.
So you're sitting there, you're thinking, okay, yeah, I want to advance. But I think to me that keeps that runaway leader from occurring, where on the regular Catan, you're rolling dice and then suddenly the cities kick in and all of a sudden you got these ton of resources and you're like, oh man, I'm going to wipe the floor with this. Here, I like that aspect of it. I like, there's this kind of pull right there of how your resources are being limited when you come to that, as you get more victory points.
I just like the whole drawing resource cards in general, because you remember with regular Catan, you didn't get resources unless your number was, came up. Here, you'll get resources if the dice roll is nice, but also at the beginning of your turn, you'll get to draw some. But then, like you said, Tony, as the game progresses, those automatic draws are less and less. But then, of course, by the trade-off is, well, by then you should have a lot of planets populated, which should help generate resources anyway. It makes the game go quicker. Lots of times in regular Catan, it's a very slow build. Here, right out of the gate, you're doing stuff. You don't have to wait to get the right resources to get stuff going. You can start turn one.
One of the cards that I have, it gave me the ability to warp or jump gate out to a planet where no one else was, kind of helped spread out the board as well. Because I do think that at the beginning of the game, with us all at the bottom of the board, that we would be fighting with one another. So that kind of alleviated that for me. I don't know how you felt about that. Did you feel like I got to race to this planet to beat Nate and Mark?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, some of the planets still have the really attractive numbers, right? So if there was a planet near us with the 8 or 6, you wanted to get to that one because that's the number that's rolled more often with 2 dice. So I saw those as valuable, but not maybe as much as I did in Catan. Because in Catan, if you were hurting on a particular resource like ore or brick, you were scrambling for it. But again, in this game, it kind of takes care of it because you automatically get to get some cards at the beginning and you may get what you need. And what you're talking about, those special abilities, is when you set up those trades with the alien factions, you could pick up their faction cards and get a special ability that's in play the rest of the game, which just totally changes how you play your particular game at that point, because those faction cards may make things cheaper for you, and that may change the strategy that you have over the rest of the game.
You wanted those.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, this game is one that I think I will enjoy getting to the table more and more, learn more about it. The ability to bring the variety to the exploration of the space by putting out the planets. Now, they do have a recommended setup, but after that, all bets are off.
Yeah, it's all random at that point. Yeah, and again, they have in the game, it's like, here, for your first play, do this. And in regular Catan, it's that way. They give you a sample layout of the board for regular Catan. It's the same here, but then after that, it's just random planets, random numbers are placed out there, and then you're off and running. And it's easy to learn, too. It's one of those things, if you've played Catan, the concept is still the same. Roll 2 dice, collect some resources. After that, then it's, what do you do with those resources? And a lot of that's basically upgrading your ship to be able to attack better, move further, etc.
Now, I will say one thing. This game is not a cheap game. Over at Miniature Market right now, you can get it for around $80. Normal MSRP is around $100. But you're getting some components, Marty. You're getting a lot of stuff in that box. It's a hefty box. So if you're thinking you're going to be picking this up for like you would a normal Catan game, you're not going to do that. This game will hit your wallet. Just keep that in mind as you start looking into that. But I'm sorry, it is worth the experience. If you enjoy Catan, I picked up the Brotherhood of the Night's Watch version that I have. I picked that up really cheap. It took I got it on sale. Enjoy playing that. This one, I would go full price on this.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that the inserts are really nice. It's one of those games that you don't really need to buy a special insert, because once you open up the box, you can pull out just the individual plastic inserts and just play straight from there, which makes setup and takedown a breeze too.
All right, well, thank you for all listening to this special edition of Rolling Dice and Taking Names. Please leave us your comments. Be sure to visit us on our Board Game Geek Guild, 1589, if you get the opportunity. Tell us what you think. If you get the opportunity to go play the old version or this new version, tell us what you think. If it's worth the investment, Marty and I are always open for comments, aren't we, Marty?
Yeah, and if you want to find out more about Starfarers, don't forget this is part of the Tabletop Showcase week. And if you want to see other content, you go check out tabletopshowcase.com, where you can learn how to play the game. You can learn the history of the game. You can learn strategies of the game. It's all out there. The content's there. We're the only podcast because you really don't want to see our faces. But if you want to see the game in glorious high-def video to see what all these components look like and how the game plays, it's out there for you to consume. Tony, I can't wait to play this game again, man. It's one of those experiences that honestly, over the past 3 or 4 months, when I think of board games I've played and memories that I have, I go back to that one thing with Mark, drawing that event card and just totally messing him up. That was so good.
And that may turn people off, but it really just reset, rinse and repeat, and you'll be having another amazing experience from that. I mean, the event deck people may say, hey, I don't want that event deck. Guess what? It's not that bad. This one just happened to hit at the wrong time.
I don't see it as a negative at all. To me, the event deck makes the game.
Oh, yeah.
You just got to realize that you're going in, that there's an element of luck there with the event that can totally change the course of the game. Just know that going in and just have fun, because that's what you're supposed to have when you play games.
Exactly. So thanks for listening, and our signature sign off. Keep rolling dice
and taking names. Thanks so much for listening. If you want to find out more about the show, you can go to our website, rolldicetakenames.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Dyson Names, Instagram Dyson Names, or join our BGG Guild 1589. Join us next episode. We'll have special guest Ignacy Chevicek come on to talk about Portal and Stronghold Undead.
Well, Marty, the only thing that I can think can stop us is if we play Rankum again with a well-known designer and it falls flat like that one.
Yeah, I don't think he was too impressed with our Rankum game. So, Tony, maybe you and I should just stick to podcasting and stay out of game design.
I couldn't agree more.